Hey everyone, welcome back. My name is Alex and we are in the Christmas tree farm, the old section. In the last video you saw me clean up and walk around and tag everything. Now I went around and I got all the numbers. Just a reminder, there's 4 categories. There's natural, which means untagged. That tree will stay as is, whether it's because it is too small and still growing, or the shape is already very nice. And some people like that natural, slightly imperfect shape. So I'm gonna keep a couple of those. Also, if the tree, because of weather conditions, doesn't heal properly, the ones I shaped today and this summer might not fully heal over and be available for this year. So I wanna make sure I do have some trees available. So in the old section, I have 106 trees that will be left as natural. 167 trees that are tagged as green. That means good tree, good shape. It just needs a bit of help to get the right shape. So I will have to shape those. So that means some of those might not be ready, depending how hard I have to cut back. 33 of those trees are tagged yellow. Here's a great example of a yellow. Means there's a defect on it. This one's kind of wonky at the top. So, but the shape is good, it's healthy, it has one trunk. So what I'll do is I'll shape it and I'll sell it at a discount because I'd hate to waste it if somebody wants a discounted tree. And if they like the shape of it, then perfect. And I have 33 yellows and 50 red. Red is, it is absolutely unusable, whether it is disease ridden or in the case of this guy here, 2 trunks. So as soon as you cut it down, it'll split in half and it'll look naked on both sides. So for the old section, I have 306 viable trees that will be available for sale. The old section, which is behind the row of red pines, I have 6 naturals, 8 greens, 3 yellows, and 1 red. But at the end of the day, for those, I'll probably sell them all at a discount because I want to get rid of those trees, free up some space because I want to use that area for another project. All right, it's like 30 degrees Celsius with the Humidex. I'm wearing full sleeves, full pants, hat, gloves because the bugs are still being a pain in my butt. My goal today is to shape and shear a third of the orchard. Sorry. My goal today is to shape a third of the tree farm. So give or take 100 trees. We'll see what I can do. It's pretty hot, taking a couple breaks, but I need to get this done this week. I'll show you what it is I do. I'll most likely use the hedge trimmer that I borrowed from my father-in-law until I have the means to purchase my own. But the good news is, actually there's 300 viable trees, but 100 of those are natural. So I only have 200 and change to trim. So 75 for today. Let's give it a shot. Here's an example of a tree that's going to remain as natural. Basically, no shaping, no shearing, no trimming for this year. If somebody wants to take it this year, go ahead. Otherwise, I'll let it grow. I'll watch it and I'll see what it looks like. This is a tree that I've done some basal pruning for it. And what I use is a 12-volt Milwaukee Hacksaw. It's very good, very portable, easy to hold in one hand. And honestly, this is soft wood, young wood. It's very easy to cut, very quick. And less chances of me hurting or damaging the tree versus a weed whacker or a small chainsaw. Now, the basal pruning is not crucial right now. The crucial part right now is to shape the trees that need to be shaped because we are approaching the end of the growing season. And then just to show you afterwards, I come back with the Hacksaw. So now I have a good foot that's cleared. So once this tree is cut down, it has room to be put into that holder for the Christmas tree. Now the trees that will be, the red tag trees will become wood chips, and I'll put the wood chip underneath the tree to stop the weed growth. Because the one thing I don't want to put is what some other farmers do, is they put the Roundup. It's basically a very strong weed killer, but it kills everything. And I like to try to avoid doing that. Let's keep going. But for the basil pruning, I'm not going to do it today, just because I really need to get the trees shaped. The basil pruning can be done much later. Also, when it's colder and there's less bugs. Six tree downs, a lot left to go. I'll catch back with you guys once I'm done. Well, I was hoping to get a little bit more done, but right now the weather is really warm, and the cutters and the hedge trimmer are not as sharp as I'd like, so it's taking a bit more time than I anticipated per tree. Plus, this is my first time doing it, so there is a learning curve. Sometimes I have to come back more than once to readjust the tree. I ended up going through 6 rows out of 32. Actually, I didn't even finish this one, so 5 and a bit. There's still a lot of trees to go through. Still a lot of trees to go through. I'll have to come back tomorrow morning before the full force of the heat kicks in. It's pretty slow going, especially when you're wearing long pants, full sleeves, gloves, just because it is riddled with bugs everywhere. So we'll see how it goes. The one upside though is it smells absolutely amazing as you're going through trimming and cutting and shaping everything. So that's a big upside. Now afterwards, every tree that is red tagged, well, I haven't decided, but probably that, because once the clippings stay on the ground for too long, it'll start to die. It won't be very viable again, or viable anymore, I should say. So what will happen is I want to try to grow them from cuttings. It sounds like it is doable, but conifers are not known for growing well from cuttings, but I figured I don't have much to lose. I'm trimming a lot of them anyways, and some of the red tags, I can take as much wood from the tree as I want because they're going down and becoming wood chips anymore. So what I do is I take this year's growth. So we can see here, just take a couple things out here. All right, so this is a branch, and if you look at the wood here, the color changes from this part to this part. So this probably 3 years old. This is 2 years old, so last year's growth, and everything else here that came from a bud will be this year's growth. So what I would do is grab a healthy growth from this year, take a knife. I'll use the pruner just to demonstrate. Remove all the needles. And then not so aggressive with the bark, but actually, let me get a better one here. Okay, attempt number 2. So take a cutting from this year. You can see there's a couple buds on here that are ready for next growing season. Remove the bottom needles. Okay. I would score slightly some of the sides. Then what I do is I would dip this into rooting hormone, the powder, and then I would plant this, and hopefully by next year roots would have developed and I wouldn't have to purchase the seedlings from a nursery. I could just use my own trees to replicate. And if I had a very tree with very nice colors, very nice shape, very nice genetic, when I'm trimming it, I can cut one and try to replicate the tree that has a nice genetic, because chances are it will pass on those good genetics because it's the same tree and it'll want to grow nice, straight, and healthy again. Or at least it likes the type of soil here. So this will be the goal once I'm done shaping everything. There's no big rush, but they say it takes about a year for conifers to start developing roots. So, I mean, this is free, it's available. A bottle of rooting hormone is $8, so I don't have much to lose to try and save some money. So that's going to be it for this video, everyone. There's no point in me showing you the same repetition over and over again. I'm going to spend the next couple of days finishing the rest of the Christmas tree farm, the shaping. The basil pruning, like I said, doesn't have to be done ASAP. I'm not trying to beat the growth or the end of the growth season, because what happens, let me show you. So like, let's say this tree here, there's stuff missing here. So I want this to grow out. So what I'll try to do is I'll try to cut the terminal buds. You can see them here if it wants to focus. The terminal buds, because I don't want the tree to grow that way. I want the tree to grow this way. So by cutting it at an angle and getting rid of those terminal buds, I'm trying to force the tree to fill up somewhere else. And when a tree has a very, very, very long leader, sometimes you want to snip it at the top so it doesn't want to go that way but sideways and fill up more. And it'll also slow down the growth of the height, because this tree right now is tagged green, but looking at it, it could almost be left as natural. I like the shape, I like the height, it looks pretty good. And if I trim that top down, it's gonna stay at that height for a little longer, because I am a little bit over 6 feet. So this tree, the top, is probably closer to 7 feet right now. And from what I understand, from what I see, and from what I'm thinking, the 6 to 8 feet category will be the biggest seller. Now there's always the option of just taking the tree and just cutting it at the height you want and taking the top portion to get that 6 to 8 feet. But if I'm spending 2 extra years growing a tree and spending time and effort only to use 6 to 8 versus 10 to 12 feet, it's not a smart decision on my part, because I'd love to only spend the amount of time I have to spend on the tree, because it takes from 5 to 7 years, depending on the species, the conditions, and the seasons, to get a tree from seed to sellable as a 6-footer. The other great news is these trees had never been touched ever, so they were just growing whichever way they wanted. Because for the new section we planted, I will not touch them before year 3, where I'll do a major shaping, and afterwards it's just maintenance. Try to keep that shape, little adjustments here and there. Let me show you the trees that we trimmed last year and shaped last year. This is a tree we trimmed with the knife. Now I didn't use a knife for the other trees just because it is much faster with a hedge trimmer. And as you can see on the bottom part, the shape stayed the same because I cut the terminal buds and the tree didn't really want to grow towards the outside, so it started to get thicker and nicer. Now my guess, and I have to go back and look at the footage, is if you're looking at the shape of the tree, I probably didn't cut these. So those grew outside and that's where I lost my shape. So this would be a very easy trim with the knife, to just cut the top slightly to maintain a nice shape, but otherwise this tree could be left alone. and I wouldn't have to touch it again. So this is where I'm saying this here is going to be a massive effort to get everything in line, but once it's done, the consecutive years afterwards, a lot less effort is required. And it's also easier to shape a tree when it's young and smaller and guide it into the shape you want versus trying to take a very big mature tree and forcing it into the shape you want, because also this part, new growth, a lot easier to cut than when you get to a branch that's 2 to 3 years old, because the wood gets bigger and tougher and leaves a bigger scar. Thank you if you are still here watching at the end. Please like and subscribe. I will continue to make videos about the Christmas tree farm. Next up will be basil pruning, and I'll come back also and get rid of all the red tags. I am hoping to get my hands on a wood chipper fairly soon. Basil prune the trees I'm keeping, clear away the weeds, and pack a crap ton of wood chips at the base of the trees to try and keep the weeds down. And so that means that next year I won't have to come back and do this all over again, and it'll be a much easier going process than what I have to do this year. Otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Do you have Christmas trees? Do you buy natural Christmas trees? What kind is your favorite? I'm a fir guy, I prefer fir, but there are some very nice spruce trees. Firs are for sure more expensive, but at the end of the day, a beautiful tree is a beautiful tree. Thank you so much for watching. Take care.